Hello students, Michael Sanchez, violin teacher here. Hope you guys are having a good day. This class we're going to be talking to students that just started violin, preferably people that have been playing under 3 months experience. So at this level, this is definitely a very important time in any violin player's careers, as it's kind of a make or break. I see a lot of students really accelerate through improving on the violin during this time, or I also see students that really build bad habits and they kind of set themselves up for failure. So let's just kind of recap, some important things, to consider. So maybe some of you guys that are new to the classes, maybe you guys haven't heard a lot about my technique chatter and everything that's important to make a good sound on the violin. One thing that I do have that's actually a really great resource that I highly recommend you guys email me to get access to is my Violin Tutor Pro checklist. This basically has a list of all the fundamentals and things that you should be doing properly on the violin. So if you guys don't have a checklist yet, email me at michael@superiorviolins.com, and I'll send you a list of all the things that you should be doing properly. So, during this time, it's so important to be working a lot on your bow hand. So let me just talk a little bit about that today. And for those of you guys that are actually here in the live class, you'll be able to see my bow hand. Gives you guys encouragement to participate in the live classes, but I'll try to explain it as clearly as I can for those that are listening on audio right now. So the biggest thing that you have to really make sure of when you're playing the violin is that your fingers are as curved and natural as possible. I find very often that students to hold the bow, their fingers are stiff like this, where their thumb and their pinky and really all their fingers are kind of stiff. And basically by doing this, you're kind of using all of your fingers to move the bow back and forth. You're kind of gripping and using improper muscles to play the violin. Raise your hand if you guys have gotten a bow bounce before. I'm sure a few of you have. Yep, looks like a few of you guys are saying so. So bow bounces are caused by improper tension of the bow. So if you're holding the bow too tight and your fingers are stiff, also it can be caused by your arm moving too much. Really anything that causes the bow to not be flexible is going to cause bow bounce. So you have to just do whatever you can to lessen any sort of tension and pressure against the bow, especially left and right tension. And then you want just the hand to just kind of fall right on top of the bow. Stay as relaxed as possible. Make sure that the thumb is curved, the pinky's curved. And you basically just want that natural hand, as that's going to allow you to get the best natural sound. One thing that I show students is that if you just take your hand and just let it fall, notice that my hand is not changing as I put it into the bow. A lot of people, as they touch the bow, they tend to change their finger placements and move stuff around, and that's not really necessary. It actually is improper. So just as my hand is very natural, naturally my fingers are curved, that's exactly how I want them on the bow. Raise your hand if that makes sense. All right. So you always have to be paying attention to your bow hand. If you don't, you're going to have some struggle with bow bounces and some squeaks. Okay, so the song that we're going to be working on today is Grandma's Chair, then Rocky Clock, and then the Symphony No. 9 theme. And the lesson is basically covering a new rhythm, which is called half notes. So let me just circle what a half note looks like. So that's basically a half note. It's a white dot with a stem. So whenever you get to a half note, you're going to hold it for 2 counts. So every quarter note, whenever you see a black dot with a stem, those are 1 beat. So each of these would be the same amount of time as you would see a second hand on a clock. So tick, 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 those are quarter notes. Now a half note would be basically double that amount of time. It would be 2 clicks, 2 taps of the second hand on the clock. So that would be counted as 2 beats. Then you have another half note, 2 beats. 2 beats, and then 1, 1, 1, 1. So one thing that you guys can do that's actually a really good thing to really master your rhythm, because it's really important to have proper rhythm when you're playing music. You can actually clap first to make sure that you understand the rhythm and are doing it right. So let's go ahead and go through number 22 just to make sure that we're doing everything in sequence, not going too fast, not going too slow, just right. 1, 2, ready, number 22. 1, 1, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's like that. Now what happens a lot of times is even if you understand that a half note's 2 and a quarter note's 1, it's still very easy to rush, which means a lot of students might do this. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, like that instead of 1, 2. So one tip that you guys might want to implement into your practice is actually tapping your foot to the proper count, the proper beat. So before you even start the piece, you want to establish a beat, how fast you're going to play the piece. So basically this is going to be how fast my foot's going to be tapping. Tap, tap, ready, go. And then a quarter note's going to be each of those taps, and then 1, 2, 2 taps. So really good thing to do is to get to start tapping your foot as early as possible. Another thing you could do is bob your instrument slightly, especially when you're first starting to learn a piece. So for those of you guys that are here right now, you'll be able to see me do that as I go through the first song. So let's go through number 22, paying attention to the rhythm, and you guys will be able to see me bob. All right, 1, 2, ready, go. Like that. A couple tips there. Make sure that you guys are using the whole bow. It's really important when you play the violin. A lot of people kind of get stuck in the middle of the bow. To be able to use the whole bow, what's important is to extend your arm out. So when you're starting at the frog is basically considered the point I'm at right now, about a quarter of the way up the bow by my hand. As I start to go down, my arm comes out a little bit, but then right after that initial kind of inch movement, I have to extend my arm out more. So my forearm should extend instead of my arm bringing the bow out. So that's kind of a bad habit that causes bow bounce. So make sure that you guys are coming out a little bit with the arm, but then extending. Then as you guys come back, bend the wrist. Really easy for students not to bend the wrist. And then bring the bow in for the last little bit. So there's basically 4 parts. Part 1, arm comes out a little bit. Part 2, extension. Part 3, wrist bend. Part 4, arm brings it back, like that. And as you're on the same string, you want to make sure that your elbow is in the right height position. It should be the same throughout. So if you guys right here, you guys can watch as I do this, my elbow doesn't drop or raise as I'm on the same string. Like that. So this would be incorrect. See my elbow is raising up there? So make sure that you guys are keeping the elbow in the same position. It's going to help your bow playing. And then try to work on those 4 different parts of the bow stroke. Okay, let's go on to number 23, which is Rocky Clock. And let's make sure that we're counting the rhythm properly. So we actually have some 1/8 notes in here. So I'm going to kind of point those out to you. So whenever you see these 2 notes, that's the same equivalent amount of time as 1 quarter note. 2 1/8 notes equal 1 quarter note. Technically 4 1/8 notes would equal 1/2 note. So quarter note equals 2 1/8 notes. Let's make sure you guys understand this. This is going to equal 1 beat, right? Like that. Okay. So basically what I'm going to do for 1/8 notes is use half the bow like we learned in the last lesson, and those should be twice as fast. So for every second hand that clicks, 1, 1, 1, 1/8 notes would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? So let's just try something. Let's go between 3 different types of rhythms. Let's go between 1/8 notes, then quarter notes, then half notes. Let's see if we can do that. So I'm going to play 4 1/8 notes, 2 quarter notes, 1 half note. Ready? Go. Like that. Okay? Let me do now 8 1/8 notes, 4 quarter notes, and 2 half notes. Quarter notes. 2, just like that. And if you're really feeling good, and you're definitely on the right track if you're able to tap your foot while doing that. So that would be the ultimate practice, to work on open strings while tapping your foot to those different rhythms. Okay, let's go through now number 23. Ready, set, go. Like that. One tip that I'm thinking of as I'm playing that, make sure that you guys are keeping the bow smooth and not stopping. If actually, you'll notice it in the next piece that I play, but basically I never actually stop my bow unless there's a rest in the piece. So there is rest at the very end of this piece, but not until that point. So until that point, I'm keeping my bow smooth and not stopping it. All right, let's go on to number 24, and you guys will hopefully be able to notice that I don't stop my bow. And it's important to do that to get a smooth tone that I'm sure you're looking for. Not until the end of the first line, until I see those rests, is where I'll stop the bow. Okay, number 24. Ready, go. Rest, rest. It's like that. Now, one bad habit that you can easily have in any piece is avoiding resting. So I'm circling the rest right here. Those two rests are the same amount of time as you would play one half note. They're both 2 beats. But what most people would do is probably cut this short and not actually count those rests exactly 2 beats. So make sure that as you're tapping your foot, so if I start a measure before that, 2, rest, rest, like that. So it's just as important to count rests as it is to count notes. All right, so hopefully that gives you guys enough stuff to practice. I highly recommend playing through these songs slowly, as I did, and try to use the whole bow. Try to think about technique. But later on in your practice session, try just to kind of let it loose and just kind of see what you can do without thinking so much about technique. That's one thing that I really highly emphasize to students, is that you have to have a nice balance of working on technique and just playing. It's one thing to do one or the other. They're both just as important, but you have to have a balance. As you want to become a musical musician, you don't just want to be a technical musician. So try to have a balance of how your mind's thinking throughout your practice sessions. So if you're going to have a half-hour session, try to work on technique, say for 10 minutes, then do more of the notes, do more of the rhythms in the next 10 minutes, and then in the last 10 minutes maybe focus less. Maybe even go back to an old piece that you learned a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago, and just see how you can make it sound. All right, thanks so much for watching. We're going to kind of hang out with the people that are currently here in the class and answer any questions they might have. Encourage you guys that are out there listening on audio to join us next week. Every Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern, we're doing these classes, including the just starting classes. You can sign up right on the website under the webinar tab. Thanks so much for watching.